Hi folks, this is Jay. Hope you're okay today. It's good to be with you. We're looking at Herman Bavinck, one of my favourite theologians, Dutch Reformed theologian. And we're just looking at one of the chapters from his book, Philosophy of Revelation. We're looking at lecture 2 in Revelation and Philosophy. Like I said, he's one of my favourite theologians of all time, and I really enjoy Bavinck. Anyhow, this is what he says about Revelation and Philosophy. In entering upon our task, we may derive encouragement from the position according at present to philosophical thought. There is reason for rejoicing in the reflection. From an object of contempt it has come to inspire the warmest interest. When in the last century the natural sciences began their triumphal progress, and the enthusiasm of Hegel gave way to sober disenchantment, people turned their backs on all metaphysics, and for a while cherished the delusion that exact science would sometimes give a satisfactory solution to all the problems of life. This was the so-called period of Reina, in which physics was satisfied with itself and professed to have no need of metaphysics. But this period now belongs to the past. Natural science, it is true, has by no means become insolvent, as Bruneter asserted. On the contrary, it has gone on year after year, adding one great discovery to another. But many have been disappointed in the foolish expectations they had cherished regarding it. The ignoramus et ignorabimus has rudely awakened them out of their dreams. Thus, towards the close of the last century, a great change gradually took place in the prevailing mental attitude. With the return to mysticism in literature and art, the need of philosophy asserted itself. This remarkable reaction has extended into the very camp of natural sciences. Not only has Oswald published his lecture on natural philosophy, his Annals of Natural Philosophy, and Rank his Philosophy of Botany, but natural scientists have eagerly discussed philosophical and especially epistemological problems which witness such names as W.K. Clifford, Poincare, Kleinpeter, Ostwald, Verman, Haeckel. No doubt professed to base his conclusions wholly on facts, but even he nonetheless recognizes that in order to reach a monistic worldview, thought must be called to the aid of perception, philosophy of science, faith of knowledge. Nor is this return to philosophy and religion the result of arbitrary caprice. It has all the characteristics of a universal and necessary phenomenon. It is not confined to one people or one stratum. It appears in many countries and among men of all ranks. It is not peculiar to this or that particular branch of learning, but manifests itself in the spheres of history, jurisprudence, and medicine, as well as in that natural of sciences. Its influence is on less strong in literature and art than in religion and theology themselves. Verlaine and Maeterlinck and Sudermann and Hauptmann, Ibsen, Tolstoy, and Nietzsche are all equally dissatisfied with the present-day culture, and all seek something different and higher. They endeavour to penetrate beneath the appearance of things to the essence, beneath the conscious to the unconscious, beneath the outward forms to the inner mystery of infinite life, of silent power, of hidden will. From every quarter comes the demand for a new dogma, a new religion, a new faith, a new art, a new science, a new school, a new education, a new social order, a new world, a new God. The things offered under this label are too varied and often also too silly to enumerate. Buddhism, Mohammedanism, and the religion of Wodan are commended to us, theophany, occultism, magic, astrology, daemonism, and Satan worship, race and hero worship, ethical culture and the pursuit of ideas, the cult of humanity and of Jesus. Reform movements are the order of the day. Modernism is in the air everywhere. Divergent as these tendencies may be, they all have the characteristic in common. In the first place, the principle of autonomy, expressing itself on the one hand in anarchism of thought, on the other hand in auto-sautorism of the will. Each individual regards himself as an independent and self-governing, and shapes his own course of pursuit and pursues his own way, having nothing to start with except a vague sense of need. Men seek satisfaction in every possible quarter, in India, Arabia, among the civilized, uncivilized nations, in nature, in art, in state, and society. Religion is treated as a matter purely purely personal invention and individual construction as a mere product and element of culture. Everybody has his own religion, not merely every nation and every church, but every person. Thus we hear of a religion of the modern man, a religion of the layman, a religion of the artist, a religion of the scientist, a religion of the physician. It has become a vogue to study and expand the religion of Goethe and Lessing, of Kant, of Schleiermacher, of Bismarck and Tolstoy. But in the second place, these modern movements are all alike seeking after religion, after the supreme good, abiding happiness, true being, and absolute worth. Even though the word religion be avoided and the new fashion term worldview preferred, in point of fact the satisfaction of no other need is aimed than that which is used to be supplied by religion. As to the proper definition of such a worldview, there exists considerable divergence of opinion, but whether with what Windelband we define philosophy as the theory of determination of values, as the science of normal consciousness, or conceive of it with Plauson as a mode of viewing the world and life, which shall satisfy both demands of reason and the needs of the heart. In any case, it is plain that philosophy is not content with the scientific explanation of reality, but seeks to vindicate the higher ideals of humanity to satisfy its deepest needs. Philosophy wishes itself to serve as religion, and from an attitude of contempt from all theology has veered round to a profession of being itself at bottom a search after God. The agreement between these various movements of reform extend, however, still farther than this. The ways in which satisfaction is sought for the ineradicable metaphysical need appear to be many and divergent. But appearances are deceitful. Some youthful enthusiast discovers an idea which takes him by surprise, and he forthwith claims for it importance of a new religion or a new philosophy. But historical study and scientific reflection will, as a rule, convince him, in short order, that the thing he regarded as new was in point of fact quite old, having in the past repeatedly emerged and passed away. That which has been in that which shall be, and there is no new thing under the sun. The new fashions in theology are as much like the old Arianism and Zionism and Gnosticism and Sabellianism as one drop of water is like another. The new roads in philosophy have all been travailed by the thinkers of ancient Greece. It is difficult to square this fact with the theory of evolution and its boast of the wonderful progress of our time. But in reality the limitations of the human intellect soon became apparent. The originality of human thought is readily exhausted. Trollope strikingly observed that the number of those who have had something really new to tell the world has already been remarkably small, and it is astonishing to observe on how few ideas humanity has actually subsisted. The directions in which it is possible for our thinking to move are not nearly so numerous as we suppose or imagine. We are all determined in our thought and action by the peculiarity of our human nature, and then again by each one's own past and present, his character and environment, and it is not rare that those who seem to lead others are rather themselves led by them. If then we attend to details, to words and forms of expression, to outward considerations and modes and presentation, we seem in the presence of a chaotic mass of religion and worldviews among which choice is difficult. But when we penetrate to the centre of things and consider principles, all this mass reduces itself to a few types. The epochs of human life, as Goethe saying has it, traverse in typical development a series of worldviews, and as every worldview moves between the three poles of God, the world and man, and seeks to determine their reciprocal relations, it follows that in principle only three types of worldview are distinguishable: the theistic, i.e. religious theological, the naturalistic in its pantheistic or materialistic form, and the humanistic. These three do not succeed one another in history as Comet imagined Istros Estas to do. They rather recur in rhythmical waves, more or less intermingle and subsist side by side. Thus Greek philosophy was born out of the Orphic theology, passed over into the natural of the old nature philosophy, and became humanistic in the sophist and wisdom philosophy of the Socrates. Plato in his doctrine of ideas went back to the old theology and to Pythagoras, but after Aristotle his philosophy gave way to the naturalist systems of Epicurus and the Stoy, and these in turn, by way of reaction, gave birth to the teachings of the skeptical and mystical schools. Christianity gave theism the ascendancy of many centuries, but modern philosophy, which began with Descartes and Bacon, assumed in ever-increasing measure a naturalistic character till Kant and Fichte in the ego once more took their starting point from man. After a brief period of the supremacy of the theistic philosophy in the 19th century, naturalism in its materialistic or pantheistic form resumed its sway, only to induce during these recent years a new return to counter the principles of humanism. At present, the materialistic form of naturalism has been generally discredited among all thinkers of repute. Practically, it still survives and counts many adherents, but it has lost all hold upon the leaders of thought. Three causes have chiefly contributed this. In the first place, the criticism to which Darwinism, in the narrow sense of this term, has been subjected. It should be remembered that Darwin was not the father of the idea of evolution. This existed long before him. Bodin and Hobbes, Montesquieu and Voltaire and Rousseau, Kant and Schiller had already taught that the original state of man was merely animal. Hegel had changed Spinoza's substance into principle of active force and made out of immutable being a restless becoming, but all these earlier thinkers held the idea of evolution in purely philosophical form. Darwin, on the other hand, endeavoured to supply it with a scientific basis in fact, just as Marx tried to detach the socialist hopes from all utopianism and raise them to the ranks of scientific theory. But no sooner had Darwin succeeded in laying such a scientific foundation in his struggle for existence with its correlates of natural selection and survival of the fittest than the attacks on his work and its demolition began. In rapid succession, the principles of struggle for existence, of unlimited variability, of gradual accumulation of minute changes during vast periods of time, of the hereditary acquired qualities, of the purely mechanical explanation of all phenomena, of the exclusion of all teleology, were subjected to sharp criticism and in wide circles pronounced untenable. The prophecy of Wigand that this attempt to solve the riddle of life would not survive until the close of the century has been literally fulfilled, and the declaration of J.B. Meir has met with wide assent that Darwin's doctrine of descent was not so much an hypothesis proposed to explain facts, as rather an invention of facts for the support of a hypothesis. In the second place, natural science itself has undergone considerable modification in its fundamental conceptions. Physics and chemistry for a long time proceeded on the assumption of atoms, which, however minute, yet had the property of extension, and were capable of filling space with sober scientists. This atomist never took the place of a scientific theory, but served simply as a working hypothesis within defined limits. Materialism, however, elevated this hypothesis into a theory capable of explaining the world, regarded the atoms as the ultimate and sole elements of the universe, and viewed all change and variation in the world as due in the last analysis to mechanical combination and separation of these primitive elements. Not merely was protest raised against this by philosophical thought as represented in Kant, Schelling and Schopenhauer on the ground that atoms possessing extension and filling space cannot at the same time be conceived as indivisible, but modern physics and chemistry themselves, through their study of the phenomena of light and their discovery of the Rontgen and Becquerel rays, and their insight into the endless divisibility of matter, came more and more to the conviction that actio in distance is absurd, that empty space between the atoms is inconceivable, that atoms itself is a mere figment, and that the existence of a world, the filling all, is highly plausible. To this must be added, in the third place, the effect of the criticism which has been brought to bear upon the naturalistic hypotheses from the epistemological point of view. Materialism made pretense to being monistic, but could furnish no support for this claim, seeing that in its atoms it continued to place matter and force side by side, had nothing to say about the relation between these two, and so remained obviously dualistic. Hence, in the name of monism, materialism was condemned. Oswald dispensed entirely with the conception of atom, matter and substance, thing in itself, and substituted for them in the idea of energy. What the vulgar notion regards as matter is a pure product of thought, and in itself nothing else but a group of various energies arranged in space. These energies are the only reality, and our knowledge of the outside world can be subsumed under the form of representation of existing energy. But even this energetic monism, which Oswald sought to substitute for materialism monism, did not provide a permanent resting place. On further reflection, it appeared that none of those outside world include ourselves is directly present to our ego, but comes to us through the medium of consciousness only. The ultimate elements, therefore, which are positively given and from the foundation of science appear to be not matter and force, either an energy, but sensations and perceptions. The phenomenon of consciousness are the only fixed reality. Hence it becomes the task of all genuine and empirical and exact science, taking its start from these phenomena of consciousness, to trip them of all accretions, and then to proceed to the construction of a system on the basis of these ultimate elements of, in quotes, pure experience only, end of quote. These considerations drawn from the philosophy of pure experience as advocated chiefly by Mach and Avenarius, led the Göttingen psychologist Max Verworn to a new form of monism, to physical monism in the opinion of this scientist. Materialism, while capable of rendering some service as a working hypothesis, is altogether without value as an explanation of the world. Mind cannot be explained from matter, nor phenomenon of consciousness from the movement of atoms. Even the parallelistic monism of Spinoza, advocated of late chiefly by Paulson, does not satisfy because it is neither monism nor parallelism, nor is the energetic monism of Oswald more satisfactory because it continues to distinguish between physical and physical energy, psychical energy, thus falling back into dualism. There is no way of saving monism except by abandoning materialism and energeticism alike, rejecting altogether distinction between soul and body as a delusion inherited from primitive man, and deliberately reducing reality in its whole extent to the content of the soul. In view of the fact, however, that such a psychical monism may easily lead to solipsism and skepticism, others have concerned themselves with establishing the objective reality of the phenomenon of consciousness. The Margbo school, represented by Cohen, Natrop, Kazir, and their colleagues, seeks to secure this by finding the subject of experience not like Protagoras in the consciousness of the individual as such, but in this as rooted in and supported by a universal objective transcendental consciousness which, although incapable of individual states of experience, yet bears in itself aporistic forms, and so offers to our representation a basis and a norm. So we'll finish there. That's just a quarter of the chapter, and I hope you can see there that there's a lot of stimulation, a lot of encouragement in your Christian faith, and as you're reading Herman Bavinck, he loved to engage with philosophers, and so you get that, and it inspires you to study more and to think more, and I just love the guy. So I'd encourage you to go and read the book, and Philosophy of Revelation. You can get it on PDF, and read it and enjoy. Take care and God bless.